Good evening. Welcome. Another edition of the EquinEdge Stakes preview show, Oldy. We are back. It's Risen Star Weekend. Scotty's taking vacation as always. Kudos to him.
It's good to be the king.
Yeah, right. But you and I, we crushed it last week on this, right? Remind me what happened.
Yeah, I believe out of the 11 races or 12 races we covered, we had 9 between the two of us, 9 first pick winners.
That's pretty good, man. I don't know if Scotty and I have done that before. I always gotta carry the weight for him. But we have it's Risen Star, my favorite place at the Fairgrounds. I and everybody, thanks for being here. I've been working so much, Oldie, and like doing baseball, basketball stuff. And I was trying to handicap that Fairgrounds card today. And I was like, oh my gosh. I saw you said there was that carryover in the late pick 5, but those last 2 races were really tough. And I saw the Pace Source won that race in, was it race 8? It paid like $40 or something.
Yeah. And then the, as well, race 6, 2% first time starter won.
Yeah. It's I don't know, gonna happen, I guess.
Yeah.
It's Risen Star. There's a bunch of stakes all over the country, right? I mean, there really is. We're gonna jump in. We're starting with Aqueduct, race number 3. The was that the Florida Sandy?
At Aqueduct, yes.
I'm so confused. Right? It's a state bred called the Florida Sandy.
Yes. Say Florida Sandy, in fact.
There's a huge morning line discrepancy on the 2 horse. That was the first thing I noticed. Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's the pace, but I was like, why is this horse 6-1? But what was your thoughts here?
Well, first, let me point out that the 5 Sheriff Bianco ran a week ago. So I have the long shot listed taken out of the field already, assuming that it's a scratch. But so my thought here, and I just it's hard to get around the 36-point pace advantage on Mama's Gold there. It's also the top GSR there. It is 0 for 2 at the distance, though. But for me, that kind of pace advantage, it's beaten 68's going 9 furlongs, is shortening up here. It had been routing, and for Chad Summers, it does also have a win at a 1-turn mile. It is moving up slightly or back to the state bred level here, where it did win at 9 furlongs as well in a 68 group. So very similar. And the pace advantage is just monstrous here, it looks like to me.
Let's watch the race sim real quick, because the win percent's all over. It does. So the 2 inside posts, right? I can just not get over why is the E morning line 6-1?
Well, I want to see what happens when Sheriff Bianco's morning line is taken out of there, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. The 5, well, as long as that horse scratch, maybe it come back. But you could see the 2 backs up, right, and the 4 wins the race.
Yeah.
So I ended up landing on Doc Sullivan, Oldie, the 4. I could see the angle on the 2. We'll talk about the 2 in a second, but the 4 horse, Doc Sullivan, I mean, morning line likes this top pick. It's 1 at 7 furlongs, right? So that was kind of important to me in this race, because it was just kind of a questionable group and race, I thought. So the 4 horse, right, run is 70-72 all the way back there in the summer in New York. I mean, and 1 state bred, 1 non-state bred. I mean, racing the Pennsylvania Derby, so they had high hopes. right? Didn't win that 72 back, but that was first off the layoff and ran really well at 7 furlongs, right? I mean, hit the board in 10 of 12. I mean, Maselli has a nice horse. I think it's a good spot for him in this race, Oldie, because this is just not a great group, I thought,
Yeah,
for stakes, right? Like I was like, so I get your two play, but I think he has a nice one here. And versus if the two, as long as the two don't get loose and set super easy fractions, I think the 4 on the race sim is hopefully Lascano is semi-aggressive, right? And I thought can maybe take the 2 over. So if we go back to the 2, I mean the 2 is definitely been a different horse for Ferrero, right? Like it made
yeah,
much better with Summers. I just I has stopped on the lead, but is much different with Ferrero. So I do give it that. I mean, I didn't like some of those races at Aqueduct in the mud and stopped and it did get loose and that was much tougher race. But
yeah. But I think you also downgrade this horse if it depending on how wet it is too. I mean, didn't run terrible for Summers in that 60. I mean, it won by 13 and a half lengths, but that was against 60s. But for me, the decision on the 4 was that the 4 has been sub 2-1 3 out of the last 5 races and over 20% to win and has burned money in all those races. And I'm throwing
well,
the Pennsylvania Derby out when I'm talking about burning money because this horse was not supposed to win there, but should have won, and was close. I think it definitely finishes in the money and has a chance to win, but it's hard for me to get around those 3 races there.
my only perspective, and then if anybody in the chat has any comments, feel free to chime in. So, you know, I mean, those were much tougher. That was the 74 and, lost as the favorite and ran second. So I got around that race 5 back and then ran another second right at Saratoga. I mean, and that's why I like the 4 though, because those were huge. Those were so much better at state bred than these races. And then toss Pennsylvania Derby. I think your comment, this still a 70, which is tougher than this, and did lose as the favorite. But that's my point. Like now gets this kind of easy group, but I think it's between the 4 and 2. I
Yeah.
like on the 4. I just think he has a nice one. I mean, if it's on the cutback, if he runs a similar race as the race in the last 2 races, or last summer, should win. I mean, to be honest, but the 2 could get loose, so I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's between those 2. My third spot here was the 1, but I don't think the 1's a win threat. I think the 1's a horse to use underneath at a price with an E morning line angle.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think the 3 could run an okay race. That would be the other one. I mean, it is the second pick, but I think it's between the 2 and the 4
Yeah.
predominantly. So, all right, we're headed to the fairgrounds, I think, right?
Yep. Fairgrounds, the Colonel Power Stakes.
Yeah, it's they're sprinting. They run a lot of turf sprints there, Oldie.
Yeah.
Like in they could be difficult. I thought was a good. I really did. I actually thought this was a pretty good race. I mean, David Harrison talks a lot about this turf sprints. I can see why David's always said they're so difficult because they can be so competitive. So,
Well, for me, I was disappointed in the 1 and hearing the 1 and the 2 were out because I actually liked both those horses.
oh, I hadn't heard
Uh,
that. The 1 and the 2 are both out of this race.
yeah, so I sent you a
Oh,
WhatsApp on
I
that.
didn't even see it.
According to Marcus Hirsch from DRF, they were both in for dirt only.
Ah, well, okay.
And
Yeah, okay.
I thought the 2 Kavad had a big shot even on turf. Yeah, for Joe Sharp. So that was disappointing. And the 1 had at least a little bit of a look, even though the GSR was bad. But So, I ended up having to just kind of move up my picks. I personally, I'm not sure where you landed here, but I personally landed for on top with No Nay Hudson. Here, I don't feel good about it, just because I there's no pace in this race, in a turf sprint, which is going to have a weird race shape, and this horse is kind of burnt money and just doesn't win all that often. But this field is so, with those two horses out, this field is just not great in my mind. And I think No Nay Hudson's the best of the remainder here, even though there's a couple others I could see winning. But, I just think there's not enough pace for somebody like, the 7 or
Yeah,
the
that that
anymore.
that really changes the whole pace. I do
Yeah.
agree with you. I hadn't seen that. I appreciate you saying that. I won't change my. I will land on the 6. Manza Musa. Um, Irad's here. All the big jocks are here, right?
Yeah.
Flavian Pratt riding the 10. Flavian Pratt on the 10. I saw it with Wesley Ward, 0 for 5. But on Mansa Musa, I mean, a 4-year-old only off the layoff for
Yeah.
Belmont, has. I like the work pattern here off the layoff. I mean, this horse looks fit, to be honest. So I think versus this group, when I looked and you look to or last out in that 76, far too tough in grade 3. I mean, didn't run, now drops back and nearly won a 72 back. So that was at 6.5. I mean, the GSR says, 2 turns all day. I mean, ran really well at Saratoga last summer. I mean, sprinted. So, now cuts back off the
Yeah.
layoff. I mean, if he can run either one of those races like last summer at Saratoga, I think could be tough. I don't. I mean, now with those horses scratching, I mean, maybe the 10 is too fast. I don't know that'd be my only concern now with the 6. I like the 6 a lot when the 1 was in the race, actually, because I wasn't really a super big fan of None Hudson. I mean, I think it won the race, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but now that the pace, because the 1 had all the speed, that might make the 10 really difficult. But I still do like the 6. I think 6 can run a good race. Hey,
Yeah.
John.
The 6 was my second pick as well. And I just think this horse wanted no part of 2 turns there at Keeneland.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm just tossing that race completely.
Yeah.
But it if the 6 runs the way it's to what it ran in the quick call there, I think it has a big shot at Saratoga, even though it didn't win that race. And I just the pace is obviously a concern here, but I think the 6 will be close enough to the 10 that it could be a factor as well there.
Yeah, I think I'll have to. And
Yeah.
hey, Jose and sir, thanks everybody for
Yeah.
being here. I've been looking at. I mean, I going all the way back to that Keeneland race, Oldie. I mean, that was not even. It was what 10 months ago. I mean, ran off the layoff and ran second in a 76. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really done nothing wrong, to be honest. I mean, hasn't won, and I think that's why people will miss this horse, in my opinion. But I still like the 6 on top. Would be where I would land. So,
And I like this horse a little more when the with the 1 and the 2 in, but I thought the 8 has a little bit of a look as well, off the Berg claim from Mike Maker. But I this is probably an underneath usage at this point with the lack of pace here.
what maybe the only other one? What were your thoughts on the 4, Oldie? I know that. I mean, it's Joe Sharp Hernandez riding, Jose riding, obviously else. Jose riding Demolition Duke, but
Yeah.
I thought his horse would have to improve. I thought maybe,
Yep.
maybe he could hit the try or something at a nice price, but I'm not sure could win.
That's exactly the way I felt about this horse too. Similar to the 8. Um, I just thought this horse was, if this was a 64 group, this horse would be, could be right there. But against the 72, this horse hasn't shown to me
Yeah.
that it can run against it and be a factor against horses that are that good.
Yeah. Mr. Saletta, good to see you. John, Oldy, I did the coaching class today for Scotty. And before we left, I was like, okay, here's I only had a few Fairgrounds bets today. I think placed 2 bets. It was kind of funny. But one of them was, I said, okay, here it is. It was the 4-8 exacta. I thought that the 8 would be tough, but I thought the 4 had a big shot. It was raced 3 or 4, but we just missed it. It was such a bummer. But John, it was close. I know. I saw that race. Good job, Mike. That's tomorrow. All right. We where are we going? Race 10, right? Yes.
Yep, the Albert M. Stahl Memorial Stakes.
All right. I didn't see who you put. I caught a bunch of horses in this race.
Go ahead, tell me who you got here.
I cut the 4, the 6, the 7, and the 9, and the 11, and the 12.
I'll leave the 12 because that
was has the pace. Picks. That's fine. You can. The 12 has the pace number, and then okay, that's good. I think. Let's watch the race then. I don't think. Well, we can't watch the AEs anyway, so. So the 12 has all that speed, only going to be flying. Right? That 2-horse got loose today at Fairgrounds on the turf, and I think CJ McMahon was riding, and that had the pace square and won on the lead.
Yeah, I was very torn. I almost put the 12 on top, but I actually really like my top pick here. So
this is a good. I thought this was a good, good stakes race. They're all coming.
Yeah, so the system has the 1 winning the race at a nice price too. So, for me, Justin, I landed on the 5 here in Nadia D, the Argentinian horse making its second start in the U.S. for Nacho Correas, and keeps Jose aboard there. And ran really well, 122 pounds, which was the lightest weight it had carried since basically 2023, and now it gets to 118 pounds here.
Yeah,
this could be a lookout situation. I mean, this horse had been winning races pretty easily until it went up to 132 pounds in Argentina.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you always suck it. You got the win percent doesn't really bother me. I struggled if this horse would be my top pick, but I could see why you put it there.
Yeah, I mean, and I believe I was on it at Keeneland that day too. So, because I remember talking about this being a Grade 1 winner in a field that had no other graded stakes winners and all that kind of stuff, and it was a 70 group that when it won its Grade 1. At a mile on the turf.
Yeah.
And, so it matches the SOR here. If the 12 stops, I think it should be right there and get a good run at this.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. That was my second pick, but I really struggled to almost put that horse on top, but I put Jose's brother on top, the 14 horse. I do think that race is between the two of them, though. That'd be a good one. I think one of them has a great chance to. We'll look at the one School Dance in a second, but Stir Crazy, Oldy. I don't worry about the posts out here. I mean, the outside posts have done really well at Fairgrounds closing, so it's Irad. I'm not worried about the post. I think it's a good trip. when you look two back at 8.5, one at Fairgrounds, and then last out on the dirt on a sloppy track was probably off the turf, romped essentially. So the horse was definitely fit, ready to go. I mean, maybe tripped out in the slop a little bit, but I don't as much worry about that with the pace, because I do think the pace is going to stop, and I think he's going to get a great setup. It's Irad. I think he find a good spot. He has to make sure to get a good trip is the biggest worry. I mean, the horse doesn't have a lot of speed, but that 12 horse Oldy is going to be flying. But I was between the 5 and the 14. I put the 14 though. I think can improve. I mean, off of some of those efforts. I mean, and Maker Jose been riding. Irad get on for the first time. I mean, since he's here, so he's gonna take a good mount. Ends up being the top pick. Closing on the race sim, even though the one wins, the 5-1-14 are right there.
Yeah. So I don't know if you noticed this today or recently, but I noticed in two of the turf races today, in the stretch, the horse on the inside took a couple weird steps or there was a divot or something, and you could tell the horse wasn't confident in the footing on the inside too.
Well, that I watched I didn't watch all of the races, but what I did watch was when that 9 horse won race
Yes, that's exactly
6.
the race I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, that horse was kind of loaded in the middle of the track, right? And then was way off the rail. So I think I didn't see the inside horses.
Yeah. Watch the 4 horse on the inside in the stride, basically when they turn to home to the finish line. You can see it either taking some weird steps, or there was something with the inside there. And I noticed it in another race also in virtually the same spot. So I'm pretty sure it's something on the inside there.
But that's been common, that track, if you remember, and it's been fine for the meet, but last year, right, they had a lot of problems and the rail was way out and the drainage wasn't good inside Oldie. So it's a good comment. Let's look at School Dance real quick. So I looked at this horse, Jose, and I don't see that the horse was claimed. It probably had a private purchase, would be my guess, or something. So, but wasn't claimed. Probably could have been. Maybe it would have been in for a tag in those. I mean, I don't know, Oldie. Maybe does Christopher Davis race horses up in Illinois?
Yeah. Okay. So he is a Hawthorne or was a Hawthorne and Arlington trainer, and now he races a little more all over the country, and good trainer for sure. And he is, second time with horse 31%, but it's a very small sample. And my opinion, and I don't know about you on this, Justin, was that D'Amato's a very good turf trainer. If this horse wasn't beating 62s or 68s, I just didn't like this horse here.
Well, in the horse, Scotty and I, we talk on here, we talk about the horse, barely won Oldie last out in a 62, right? I mean, was the favorite and just got up. So
that was also on synthetic, going 2 turns at Turfway, where it favors late running horses as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's right there on the race sim, Jose. So, it's, in my opinion, it's a must include in a vertical, on horizontal. I don't know. You'll have to decide. I mean, it's going to be a nice price. So yeah.
The horse is 6 years old and really did its best running in 2022 is what I see.
Yeah. Won 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
And then they, just
nearly won a grade 1 at 10 furlongs as well. And then it's pretty much been consistently what we're seeing. So, and that they dropped it into conditioned allowance company on the turf, and it didn't win there either. So, uh, I just didn't love this horse. There was another horse, and I'll have to look real fast here. No, hold on. The 9, maybe. Yeah, so this 9 interests me a little bit as well. For McPeak, second time in the U.S., first time on turf for McPeak. The wins in Brazil were all on turf. I don't know if the SORs are accurate or not, but I'd give this horse a long shot look. If you need maybe a capper in a tournament or something like that, that this would be their worst horses to take a chance on.
Yeah, I mean it's a hard read. I mean the horse, I mean obviously came from a good trainer down in
Yeah,
Brazil. Was much the best. It's a big step up though, right? I mean,
yeah.
if the SORs are, I think the SORs do okay. David, no, it has not. Is we getting so much snow here and ice, Oldie? It's crazy. It's but I do have power back, David, so that's
Yeah,
key. But yeah, I mean that's a hard read, Oldie, but I mean I get it. I get the angle,
yeah. I mean, that was just one I had noted down that I was at least had an eye on. So, all right, on to, I mean, and we talked about the 12 a little bit. It's a sprinter stretching out, also a former D'Amato horse, but that's my second pick here. And it has shown it can ride in the past at 6.5 going down the hill at San Anita. So, I don't think it needs the lead. I don't think it's going to go as crazy fast as the race sim thinks. But
Oh,
I do think,
I mean, this horse is a sprinter, though. I mean, it was flying at Del Mar.
yeah, I mean, it did go 9 furlongs, um, and stopped with Barrios aboard. But that's I just think it has a chance in a race that it just has this type of pace advantage of 30 points.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. It's 9% to win, so you could definitely
Yeah,
go get be worse. The 2 horse only go ahead. I mean, right there at the finish as a EquinEdge horse to watch too in a race like this.
yeah. I though if this 2 horse were to scratch out or something like that, too, I don't really think the 3 has any speed. It just has that one race. Maybe Chad sends this horse. That's the only other thing I can think of. Otherwise, the I think the 12 could get pretty easy lead here.
Yeah, well, I think it will. I just think
Yeah.
it's a sprinter and it's gonna stop, but we'll find out.
I mean, the 15 looks like it might be more of an MTO anyways. And all right, so and the 16 looks like it
Yeah.
prefers synthetic. So
Yes. Yeah. I didn't see anything in either one of those
yeah,
really. All right, I'm on 14. You're on 5. You like the 12 some. I don't know who did well it's before we go. Oh, I thought the 2. I did think that the 2 Dream Concert. Oh, I mean, whoa, old.
just got
I don't think you can ignore this horse. I mean, it's been in the board 12 of 17 in Ludbury, right? I mean, it will have to improve is the biggest thing with the 2.
hmm
So, but
yeah,
and I thought it was a really competitive turf race, so Oldie. I
yeah,
mean,
great.
so with all that speed up there, a lot could happen, and the 2 doesn't need the lead. It's come off the pace. It's won easy, 3 lengths, 6 lengths. It could improve here, you know what I mean? And hasn't necessarily done great here, but it hasn't been back on the turf and gets off the dirt and off the synthetic, right? So
Yeah,
back to the turf where it won 3 in a row, so this horse is gonna be a great price, and I thought that horse had a big look. I liked even the I like the exact in this race, because I do like the 2-5-14 quite a bit. Even the one with the try, maybe the try's a play here.
Yeah. Or the super.
You're right.
All right. Should we move on to the next race?
Let's do it.
All right. The Mine Shaft.
Is this the one that has a bunch of horses from last year?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. And Hall of Fame just ran a little bit ago. That was a kind of an easy win on Hall of Fame there, but there's only I kind of remember that. And then I saw some of these others. I was like, man, these names look or sound very familiar. And then I looked. I'm like, oh, okay, makes sense. So where'd you land here?
So I landed on Tuscan Sky, which is kind of strange because I typically don't like Tuscan Sky in general in these races. But I just thought that this horse has a big look here. The third off the layoff for Pletcher. I don't really think he had an excuse in the Harlan Holiday other than it broke a little slow. But this horse has shown it can rate, does have some speed. There's some other speed here. It's Rapoli, it's Irad and Pletcher. And I think, the works have been solid. It's been a good work pattern. I think it could be sitting on a big race here.
Yeah, that horse was kind of a head scratcher to me. Tuscan Sky, I didn't like, and then I thought I had a little bit of a shot, but I'm landing with Mr. Cox and Flavian Pratt, Oldy. When you look at this group, I just didn't think much of them, to be honest. I even think Maycock's Bay, the 6, might have a shot, to be honest. But I mean, there's going to be some amount of speed up front with Hall of Fame. I don't really worry too much about coming off the pace here. I think the 5, just based on the class, I mean, it's going to be coming off the pace, but not going to be like crazy far back. I mean, we'll be back there, Oldie, don't get me wrong. But,
yeah,
when you look at those last couple of races, horse actually showed a lot more speed. I mean, didn't run as well, I guess I would say, but goes off the layoff. This horse fit all day for Brad Cox. And I didn't like a lot of these. You know what I mean? Again, that's why we'll talk about Maycock's Bay in a minute. But I just thought that coming off the layoff and Pratt here, and Cox finds a good spot. I mean, it's getting much easier than all of those previous races.
Well, I would argue, though, that the horse that actually, I believe, beat it no, I'm wrong. Baden Down. Yeah, Baden Down, the 7 horse actually beat Catching Freedom.
Yes. Yep.
In that race.
The Ohio Derby.
Yeah. And I just,
But Baden Down not getting a lead like that.
But I also think Catching Freedom may need to be further back. Like you look at this horse's best races, that they're coming from the clouds, and they've had this horse sitting too close, and it hasn't had that kick.
Well, but keep in mind, those were tougher races. So I get it. Like, I'm totally tracking, but those were much tougher. You know what I mean? Then this group is 72. I mean, coming out of 78s and 76s. I mean, but I hear you. I do think the horse is going to be near the back to start. Yeah. I see Batten Down and Hall of Fame, I think, they're going to go quick. And I just have question marks on both of them, Oldie. I mean, so, yeah. But I thought this horse have a good pace setup.
I think, I feel like Baden Down's going to get the lead over Hall of Fame here, even though I know Hall of Fame has the faster pace number. I think the class on Baden Down may uh, may play out here, and a fast horse in a 76 race is usually SOR race is usually faster than a fast horse in a 60.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so my gut was that Baden Down might get to the lead here, and Hall of Fame might be stuck kind of in the minutia. But Hall of Fame has shown that it can rate, but just against easier, and wasn't good enough in the Louisiana Derby or the Risen Star. So I just think this horse might be a cut below. I did have a note from January of last year saying possible Derby Trail horse.
Well, I think that horse did have a lot of hype.
Yeah,
I mean, but also I remember that last race. I mean, that they off of the layoff. I mean, it was nice, but it was also a 60. I mean, so um, this is much tougher, facing some of these. But I
yeah.
think to your point, I mean, it didn't run great in the Derby and Risen Star, right? That was my question mark on this horse. Like now, as a 4-year-old, he's going to just be much better.
Well, and I think that maybe this is just a nice allowance horse.
Yeah, that yeah, I think we're gonna find out. But I might be with you, to be
Yeah,
honest. I mean, or maybe just the stakes horse. Maybe not graded
yeah.
stakes. But yeah.
All right. So you mentioned Maycox Bay as is that your third pick there or second?
Second, yeah, 265. Oh no, yes, no. What race is
Five.
this? Race 11.
11. Yeah.
I was 5-5. Oh, I was 5-3-6. So I did put the 3 in second. Looking back, but I thought Maycox Bay. I mean, it's Michael Stidham used Ben Curtis a lot at Fairgrounds, Oldie,
Yeah.
and you look at both those one back-to-back 64s, and then you look at the effort in the Louisiana Grade 3. I mean, was in the slop, and so now gets back to a dry track, and I mean, did win in the slop obviously at Parks, but that was sprinting. But this horse wants long all day. And again, I think you can probably find some question marks on a lot of this group. And this is a horse, though, it's a Godolphin homebred, Oldie.
Yeah.
And it hasn't necessarily really had any trouble. It came late to the races in 2023. It did go on a long layoff, so that would be the biggest question mark. I mean, was on a layoff, but did come back and has run well, right? So one off the layoff, always impressive.
Yeah.
On allowance company is 64. Again, back to back, we're 11, 12 months apart, but and then again, it was in the 8 post there. It's always hard, Oldie, to be in an outside post at Fairgrounds. It's just very difficult. And I mean, if some of these falter and there's a hot pace, this horse could get up 100%. So, I might put this horse actually second. I do like your 3 horse, but I'd probably I might be 5-6-3. But I
Yeah.
think it would be a great price.
So I had the 5 in third, but I want to point out I'm going to call it a potential oddity in this race, and that's the 2 Diodoro horses. It
Yeah,
looks like he has a rabbit and a closer here.
I know, man.
So I don't know how fast this 8 actually is because it's braking slow. So if it breaks slow here, there's enough speed that maybe it's either going to have to go nuts and it's going to cause a crazy pace, or it's going to drop out and try to rate. And it did do that in the Delta Mile, so it's not impossible that it could rate here. But it did catch my eye here that there were 2 Diodoros and one's a closer.
Yeah, I saw them. I was like, what is happening here? I tried to just get past all of whatever he's up to, but maybe that set it up for the 6 or something, man. I mean,
Or the 5 Catching Freedom too.
well, yeah, I like that. I do like the exact and try there with the 5-6-3, to be honest.
but the Diodoro closer is the long shot as well, so just keep that in mind.
Oh.
Also, I think Warriors Johnny stays in here and doesn't run on the turf, but I haven't heard anything official.
Okay. All right. I'm on Catching Freedom. You're on Tuscan Sky.
Yes, correct.
Tuscan Sky is kind of like Fluffy Socks, Oldie. Maybe Tuscan Sky is going to become the new Fluffy Socks for the stretch run. I think, to be honest, we covered that horse, maybe one of the most covered stretch run horses ever.
Yeah, especially at Monmouth and Aqueduct and go. Yeah, I mean, it was just at tracks that we always covered. So,
It's funny.
And for a while it was the wise guy horse too.
Yes.
Like in the Haskell especially. So, yeah. So I just thought it might be sitting on a big race here. I thought Pletcher is going to get a race somewhere here as well, and I didn't really like him in the Risen Star. So
Wait, is that? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll get to the Risen Star in a minute.
And I'll tell you the reason too that I didn't like his horse there. All right, so the Grade 3 Fairgrounds Stakes.
They don't run 9 furlongs very often on the turf course there.
Yeah, and it's a big run up to the first corner too.
Yes. Yeah. It's where'd you land here?
I landed on the 2 Gigante.
Oh yeah, this is a nice horse. I've watched this horse quite a bit, right, at Fairgrounds.
Tactical, seems to be fine on either surface. Did win the Colonel Bradley off the turf, but that's normally a turf race. So it was carted to go on the turf. Keeps Jose aboard, which I think is a big deal there because there are some other horses he could have gone to here. And has a nice little E morning line angle as well.
Yeah,
what about you? What did you land?
That was my second or third pick. I guess we do see this somewhat often. I have landed on the one horse. What say thee? Luis Saya is in town as well, Oldie. And I mean, he's won 6 of 9. And if you look at the races that he hasn't won, other than the 60 there, he didn't run there at Gulfstream. But it says block most of the stretch on the trouble line. And so Mike Maker claimed this horse, Oldie, for $35,000, right?
That's a classic Maker claim, though.
I mean,
that's what he's known for,
right? I mean, if you're going to own horses, get this guy to find a claimer on the turf like this. I mean, and look, Oldie then reels off all those wins, and then couldn't quite win the big stakes race, but so.
But I would also point out that I would throw out the Kentucky Downs.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Too, just because that's so weird. And, so you can almost, yes, it didn't win 10 furlongs at Ellis Park, but I just throw out the Kentucky Downs race.
But that's how I kind of got to this horse, because I said, okay, well, this horse been with Maker and nearly won every race. And then, and Saya's been hot. He's having a great meet at Gulfstream. But you can throw out all 3 of those losses, right? So you go all the way back. I mean, the horse was blocked in the stretch, had no shot at Gulfstream back last spring in March, right? I mean, I didn't watch the race, and then you look at the race at Ellis Park, though, Ollie, the horse was too close to the lead. So I just thought it has a great pace setup. I mean, they're going to be some amount of speed up front for sure. And I thought Saya's get a good trip coming off the pace. But I do like your 2 horse too. I like the 1, 2, 3 here, really, to be honest. Like between those 3, I thought had a big shot.
Yeah, so I didn't love the 3. But the 1 was definitely my second pick. My third one was the 8 Taking Candy for Sherry DeVoe, and with Irad aboard
Yeah. Yes.
there. I mean, you can never discount Irad in a race like this. And, the horse was close against 70s at Saratoga, going 8.5. So maybe the Irad difference gets this horse home too.
Yeah. 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 No, I thought that horse had a look for sure.
And the horse has a little more tactical speed than the other ones we're talking about. And that was another reason I thought that could give this horse a look here. It could sit right behind this cheap 4 here, who I think is just going to stop for Hartman.
I do agree. I mean, did run on the lead last out, but that was kind of a loose lead. So
And it was also on the dirt too. So
Yeah. Yeah, GSR. I mean, no horse raced on the turf, but it has mainly been going far.
yeah,
I think Oldy Art was asking why throw it out. I think Maury was just saying you can forgive the race. Art more. I
yeah.
mean, but I think to Art, to your point, did run a good race there. That's why, again, I think you can, if you get around a race or two. I mean, again, I think this horse has a huge shot.
You cannot. My answer would be clearly, and I'm sure Chris would jump on and back me up here. You cannot take Kentucky Downs form and transfer it to any other track. So whether it's a good race, a bad race, whether the horse ran well or ran poorly, you got to just throw it out because because of the hill going up at the finish and all that kind of stuff. You just can't translate, in the shape of the track, you just can't translate it to another track. And it doesn't translate typically.
All right. We're not to the Risen Star yet, or are we? Oh no,
No,
we're
we're
to
not.
the Rachel Alexandra.
Yep. And I don't know if you saw since you didn't see my other note, you probably didn't see the note that the 3 horse here, um, Ballerina de Oro, spiked a fever and is scratched as well.
Well, I think maybe spiked a fever because she was having to face Good Cheer, Oldie.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody want to run against her here.
I mean, to me, there's only 2 theories to this race. Either Simply Joking just gets away on the lead because the pace advantage is so big for D. Your favorite trainer, D. Whitworth, back then.
Yeah.
Or, Good Cheer just romps here. I think Good Cheer just romps. That's the way I picked the race, but I do think that there's at least a possibility that the 6 could pull an upset, lightly raced, and the only speed in the race, and there's not really a secondary speed in here.
Oh, I don't see how anybody's beating Good Cheer, Oldie. I think she's gonna go 5 for 5. I mean, she's bred so well. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
look at this was before I got into racing, right? It was about this time, but her mom, Wedding Toast Oldie, was just destroyed New York. I mean,
Yeah.
she's I just don't. I think she I don't see anybody beating her. But I mean, I get your point on the 6, but I just don't even think the 6 even in the right. I mean, probably competitive, but I just don't think at the same level.
No, and I'm not saying that the 6 will win. I'm just saying if the 2 loses, that's the most likely way it happens.
Yeah, or she probably 1 to 5. She might go off at 1 to 9. I mean, the EquinEdge morning line I have her at 1 to 2, so I trust that to some extent. But Fairgrounds, I mean, not Saturday. It's gonna be big pools. They don't always have big pools, although their pools have been so much better, Oldie. But yeah, she's gonna be a short price. But in my opinion, deserving. You don't see many horses in EquinEdge, Oldie, in the 70s.
Yeah.
Once you start clearing the 60s, that's pretty wild. And then the 3 scratched, to your point, it's just okay. I mean, something in my opinion gonna have to happen for her to lose.
Yeah. So she's going to go up from there too with the 3 scratching. So,
Yeah, no, I know she'll be 1 to 5 art, maybe 1 to 9, to be honest.
but if you're getting 6-1 on the 6, maybe you put a 10 or $20 on it to win, and you cover your vertical there. Vertical, horizontal. I always mess those up, but uh, so I mean that I have the 5 down as my third pick here for Tom Amoss as well, but I think that if you could maybe think about a straight try here with a 261 or 265, something like that.
I'm just well, maybe we're doubling into that race actually.
Yeah. Or
That
doubling out.
Yeah, that because I like the 2 and the 1's a good price. I'd be doubling into that race for sure. Yeah, sir, I would be. I liked even the race before, and then you could double out of it, like Oldie said.
Yeah. And so I don't know that we need to spend that much time on this race. Unfortunately,
Jonathan's Way's scratching, Oldie.
I had not heard that, but
hey, give me Oldie. Hey, Chris, will you jump in and chat for a second with Oldie? Maybe he might be busy. Oldie, I'm gonna run the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. Hey, I'll be right back. Thanks, Chris.
Unsatisfactory blood count. If I had a dime for every time I heard that.
Looks like that Jonathan's Way is going to be a scratch. Unsatisfactory blood count, Oldie.
Yeah, all right. So I'm taking that out. I did not have Jonathan's Way in my top picks at all. Just did not think that the horse, great workhorse, by the way, and that this was one of the things, and I'll probably just repeat this when Justin gets here, but no, it hadn't run to the works. But so it doesn't really change for me that what I thought was going to happen here, but I know a lot of other people like that horse there, so that's going to change their picks there as well.
Well, if you get rid of the 2, what else do you have here, Oldie?
Well, let's wait for Justin because we'll have to talk about it twice otherwise. But this was a confidence pick for me with the 2 in the previous race. So, Justin, my top pick here, and maybe we should watch the race some first before we even get into our picks.
Yeah, can we cut anybody?
Well, we just cut Jonathan's Way since Jonathan's Way's out. Probably Vamonos Carlos, the 12.
Yeah, I cut the 12. I cut the 11.
Yeah.
Okay. I cut the 10 too. And then I cut the 6 and 8 as well.
6 and the I already took the 8 out. Okay.
It was the 3 racing?
Yeah.
I thought that I don't understand what was going on in this drug or something they found.
So there's an overage, and Louisiana is not a HISA state.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is why this horse is probably here instead of running in Tampa or in the Fountain of Youth in a couple of weeks. So Louisiana basically, Jonathan Wong was suspended for like a year and a half, and he was running the whole time down here.
Yeah, he has been. Yeah.
And I think his suspension eventually got lifted, but even before Jonathan's Way was out, Jonathan's Way for me was not a horse that I wanted to use here. Huge works, but as I explained to Chris too, never seems to run to the works.
Well, will the Pletcher horse run?
Yeah, so that's what I was just saying was Louisiana's not a HESA state. So the
Yes,
Pletcher,
but still, will the Pletcher horse run?
as far as I've not heard any rumors that the Pletcher horse will not be running. Are you saying will it run well when you're saying that?
Well, if it runs, I mean, it's going to get scratched out of its maiden win, won an allowance, and now in the stakes race here, right? So are they going to run the horse or not?
Yeah, as far as I know, because it's not that's why this horse is here and not running in the Tampa Derby or the Fountain of Youth is because that they wouldn't have been able to do it in a non-HESA state while they
Well,
appeal the.
will CDI get involved? Because remember, they suspended Baffert for the same thing.
So Pletcher can transfer the horse if they have to, but as of right now, he's not yet suspended by anybody.
Well,
So
he's got a violation for that.
right, but you and I both know that the Pletcher often gets to play by a different set of rules than Baffert.
Yes, he does.
Like
So,
he gets better treatment?
yes, when it comes to these overages and
Well,
things like
gotta
that, he's
remember,
had
Princess of
several.
Stillmar had the same violation of Baffert, which was
Well, remember Forte tested positive,
Yeah.
and that they just pretended like that never happened, and they didn't announce it till after the Derby,
yes.
too. So he gets a different treatment. That clearly the reason Pletcher doesn't run horses typically in the Risen Star of the Louisiana Derby, he runs him at Gulfstream in Tampa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
And that's I keep saying it, but that's why this horse is here.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong, buddy.
But
Well, okay. Well, who'd you put on top?
so I have East Avenue on top. It was just hard to get around this horse for me, not just because of the Grade 1 Breeders for Charity win, but also what I'm hearing on the works and what I watched video-wise on the works, where they've appear to have taught this horse to rate. And the horse, there's a work out there. I want to say I think it's the February 1st work. It could be the January 26th though, where he's working with two other horses. They use both horses as a target, and the horse, without really much effort, just goes right by them in the stretch. And is by far much the best. Um, I think this is one of maybe 5 or 6 horses in the Derby that could actually win the Derby. It's not my favorite horse for winning the Derby, but I think it has a big shot here, and I think it's a kind of a cut above this group.
Well, I was surprised on the morning line, but it's just it to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, you kind of I'd expect the 4 to probably be the favorite here, and especially now with Jonathan's way scratching. I've liked East Avenue Oldie. I don't know. I think has a big shot. I ended up landing on Built just mainly because, and now that Jonathan's way is even scratching, I do think there's some speed up front. If the 4 gets out and gets the lead, though, it's probably just gone. Or if it can rate, fine, it can rate, right? I think that the 4 has a look. I put the 4 third, but I put Built on top. Ran really well in the Lecomte, and Loveberry got taken off, Oldie, and Catalano wants to win this race so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, like so bad. So he puts Louis up. I mean, I thought that, Disco Time, when we covered the Lecomte, Disco Time was, I had on top, but Built was going to be a player and, came running, right? I mean, nearly got there. So I thought could improve off that effort, but that's why I cut so many horses. Rob was asking, why is the 7 here? But there's I put Built on top. I thought could improve off of that last effort. So
Yeah, I had Built second, so we're not that far off there.
yeah.
I thought that was a good effort in the comp. I think we'll probably benefit from a dry track as well.
Yeah.
But I just, from everything I'm hearing and seeing in the works as well, I just think that Built hasn't faced a horse like East Avenue yet. There's Cole. What's our horse at?
Coal Battle.
Cole Battle, Citizen Bull, Barnes, and then I think East Avenue is the in that group of horses that have at least proven for now that they're slightly above the rest of the group. And somebody mentioned the 7. I think Septarian has a little bit of a look as well. Second time with Chad Brown on a track that isn't as speed favoring as Gulfstream is. The Mucho Macho Man going 1 turn at Gulfstream from the 6 post there with no speed. To me, that was a questionable placement for that horse at Gulfstream versus here. I think you get a better, a more fair track to horses coming from behind.
My only comment, I just think that the it's a Resolute Racing horse. I didn't even notice that, but they obviously have a lot of confidence here, and it's a nice horse. I thought it was a pretty big step up. I mean, it did run well last out, so.
And I know the GSR is not great, but it is the same sire as Medina Spirit.
Protonico?
Yes. Portonico or something like that. Yeah. So that caught my eye as well.
But I do think East Avenue have a huge shot, Oldy. Like it's kind of a coin flip between the 4 and the 9. I did like a long shot here though. If the 13 horse Oldy Magnitude, I think has a big shot in the trifecta in the super. And if some of these horses don't show up, you have a horse that's actually pretty much in form and won a 62 allowance off the layoff at Churchill and then shipped into Fairgrounds to get a couple races over the track and did run okay in the Lecomte. I mean, kind of brushed, was in the 3 hole, didn't break. So, I mean, to be honest, really had no shot. I mean, and Steve had Jose up, and then now he puts Ben Curtis up. So he puts up a Fairgrounds jock. Ben's having, I think he has 3rd. He's right behind Loveberry at the meet. So I thought that was kind of cool that he gets him out from Asmussen. And I mean, versus a group like this, Oldie, I don't think this horse is going to be close to the lead like that. I do think we'll break and find a good spot, but I don't think it's going to be up like pressing the pace.
Well, and where we talk about paying attention to wet GSR too, look at the 13-point GSR drop going the same distance.
Yeah.
On the 13 in the wet. So I'm not surprised that it didn't like it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, you're going to get a long shot to win one of these Derby preps, right? At some point,
I just don't like the 13 post there, though. That's
brutal. I'm with you, but that's my point. I think this horse has a big shot for either the try or I don't know, maybe it can even hit the exact. I think that might be tough, but from a long shot, I mean, this horse is probably going to be 15-1, maybe more. So, Dan liked the 13 too. I like hearing that, Dan.
All right. So Gulfstream,
Right.
I guess, is next.
Yep. So that's the Risen Star. You like East Avenue. I'm with you, but I like Built.
Yep.
Race 11 at the Gulfstream.
Race 11 at Gulfstream. All right. So I thought this race was pretty wide open. But I landed on the $8,000 job here, just based off its Gulfstream, and I wanted the pace here. I also had a note on this horse that it ran a blistering 1-turn mile pace and 1 going away. Stakes horse may be a graded stakes monster. So if I'm right about that, and that note is accurate, then it helps me narrow here.
When oh shoot, hold on, I'm on the wrong screen, flipping back. I thought the Grand Job had a big look. I mean, has speed, Oldy. I just thought when I handicapped this, I was like, okay, is this really going to be chalk here? And I thought that the 8 had a big look, but I think if you get around the 8, right, and I think you could find a lot of horses. And so I kind of got, when I was looking at some of these other runners, I found a little bit of interest. And so I ended up landing on Intrepid Daydream. I mean, going to be a big price.
Mm-hmm.
And so Edwin rides, has not ridden before, but I don't worry about that because Safi used him and Edwin hit on long shots. And Edwin had been on the 4, which is the other Safi and Zayas get on the 4 horse. So I was like, okay. But when I looked here, gonna be stretching out, right? I mean, has all these wins sprinting, 11, 12 times hit the board, 7 wins, very impressive. It's a grade 3 and did run in the Sugar Swirl in a 74 Oldie sprinting. And so I was like, Safi's up to something. I mean, I was like, if the 8, kind of doesn't win or run a good race, I think the 8 will. But I just thought this horse could really surprise and blow up the board. It's not in the picks, but I don't really worry about that. The win percent's getting hogged from the 8 and 10. So, again, I liked the stretch out, and I mean, it's a big drop from that dirt race, right? I mean, I don't know, I think the stretch out could be, this is sneaky here.
So I had the 5 and 3rd here, so I noticed the same things too. I'm not sure this horse wants the stretch out, which is
Well, we're gonna find out.
Yeah, we are. Did run a 1-turn mile once before at Laurel.
It romped to break its maiden.
More than one.
She romped. Sorry.
Going 8.5, but 1-turn mile at Laurel in 2023 and nearly won that race against 66s.
Yeah.
It also is possible that this just isn't the same horse from 23 to 24.
But he put that horse in an 80, Oldie. He went off at 8 to 5 and was 22% sprinting 6 furlongs.
But he's had trouble keeping the horse on the track too.
No, well, he just got the horse, but maybe I don't know, man. I was trying to even look at the 4 a little bit, which was the Safi Zayas, but I just thought, it definitely, if I'm gonna take a shot, it was a good long shot. It wasn't the Scotty long shot, but I thought it had a big look stretching out.
Yeah, and for me, the 10 post had me off. I had the 10 in second, but I like the 10 and the 11 a little bit. And I don't know what I just did there, so let me refresh this. uh, but that post is just brutal. The 11 post is brutal. Um, I like both these horses if they were in different posts. I'd like them a lot more. Um, and that was one of the reasons I kept looking and found the 5, was just because I didn't want to go wider than the 8 post here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you're right. You gotta, you have to find the right time where those horses are going to win. I was looking at Gulfstream. I mean, horses do really well stocking off the pace, going 2 turns. So that's, whether, the 10, if the 10 can find a good spot, but I'm with you, Oldy. There's some, you look there. I mean, look at, the 2 going to be inside, the 4, the 5, the 7, the 8's going to be out there. I mean, that horse could get hung wide. The 1, right? I mean, there's a lot of horses on the inside that have some speed. So that was kind of my concern with the 10.
Yeah, and if my note's accurate though on the 8, we'll see if it ends up being accurate or not. But that again, this is a big field that I may be able to narrow just off that note.
Yeah. I mean, right on the morning line, and the odds maker set a good morning line. So wins gate to wire, right?
Yep, and by more than a length, almost a length and a half in the race sim. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's definitely it's 2 turns. So first time 2 turns for this horse. So we'll see what happens. But it is by Justify. It should be fine. Mott's fine off the layoff as well. And the horse seems to be working regularly in a good pattern.
All right. You're on the 8. I'm on the 5. Anybody else we want to talk about? You talked about the 10. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we move on.
All right, we got a few more, y'all. The Sunland Derby is coming up in a bit. If you have interest in that, we'll definitely cover that. So this is your home track now, Oldy.
Yes, it is. So the Dixie Bell Stakes here for at Oaklawn. Let's watch the race sim for a second here, but
Oldy, when I see races like this, when I see like just kind of crazy algorithms, I do the same. I just kind of watch the race sim and then okay, can I find a pathway to the right horse? Can I see the pace? But we on that coaching class, he came on, he was I think a newer user, but he said, I need some help with the race sim. So I was like, all right, let's do it. But I always like to do it to understand what the pace is going to look like, Oldy, right? And like, can I visualize what's going to happen?
Well, and to me, there's a lot of cheap speed here. I mean, the 2's very cheap.
Yep. Okay.
The 5's cheap. Well, not entirely cheap, but cheap. And you do that with the 1. The 1 might have to rate summer is going to have to go pretty fast. And to me, also the 4 has speed. Gunite Max, who is not by the same sire as Gunite, so to me it's not to the max either. So I threw the 4, I threw the 3 out, and actually no, I didn't. I had the 3 in third, so I'll have to go back and look at that. But I just thought this sets up really well for the 6 and the 7. And I ended up on the 6 here for Compton with Arietta aboard, 23% second off the layoff. The horse can rate is a little tactical. His 1 on turf, his 1 on dirt. And is has some big works as well. and ran to the last time out to that 6 of 137 work. And then it's been kind of maintenancing the last 2 times to get here. So, um, that's where I ended up on top.
Yeah, well, I thought the Scotty Picks had this race nailed. Would be my first perspective on it, Oldy. The 167. I put the 1 on top. I just can't ignore stuff like this. I think it's off the maiden, which will make it really tough. And then, but if I think as you narrowed, right, and you narrowed to those horses, I think there is cheap speed. I think the question mark is going to be, can this horse kind of sit off the pace? And I think it might, man. I mean, look, it's only had 2 races.
Yeah.
So
let me tell you why I'm shaking my head. 2 reasons. Asmussen has been awful at Oaklawn this year.
yeah,
So
I heard that.
So he's sub 8%. Eric, his son that's aboard here, is also sub 8% for the meet.
He's gotten 741 mounts, from his son there. And you look at Ricardo Santana, they used to ride for him all the time on the 3 horse. He only got 184 now.
Yeah, and I've been talking about that too. How Asmussen insisting on putting his owners allowing him to put his sons aboard. How many races in this meet it's cost them, and it's been a lot.
Has it?
Yeah, I mean, they're just insanely terrible rides. Can't get horses out of gates. And again, the 1 post is a really tough spot to break here. As well, for me, Miss Martini's a toss completely.
I just can't ignore the value in this race. But I don't disagree. I think the 6 or 7 could win the race. I didn't have really a huge preference in this one. It definitely wasn't a strong opinion, but I just thought it was kind of questionable group. I mean, it's tough to break the maiden, but has run 2 great races. So heavy rain at Oaklawn. Hopefully they don't cancel.
I haven't heard anything about canceling yet, but and I was looking today and checking the DRF writers Twitter account that covers Oaklawn and Texas racing as well, to make sure and to look for scratches as well. And I hadn't seen anything about them canceling. But yeah, so I ended up adding the 3 instead of underneath instead of the 1, with the more experienced jockey, and did win a stakes race, granted at Zia Park at Sunland by 5 lengths, and it does get Santana. Well, while I don't trust Santana, and I think that's the reason he doesn't ride all that often anymore for Asmussen, is Santana, you would get the 0 for 64 stretch. And so I just thought that was the better option over taking Eric there.
All right, I'm sticking with my the 1.
All right. So I was 673 there, and you were 167, I think.
Yes. Yep.
All right, to Santa Anita. And I liked an upset here. I don't know where you landed in the Palos Verdes.
No, I did not land on an upset, so let's hear it.
All right, so my top pick here is Anarchist, the 2 horse for Doug O'Neill, who's been running against much better than this group, and has run credibly. Did win the Pat O'Brien 2 years ago in a Grade 2. Nearly won the Bing Crosby in a Grade 1. And I just think this horse is better than this group. Big City Lights is to me, the 1 horse is a nice state bred sprinter.
I don't know if you could say that about Big City Lights. Big City Lights is pretty dominant. I'm surprised you don't like Big City Lights. You liked the Chosen Bronze so much.
Yeah, but
I mean, that was an 80. I mean, in the sprint, and the horse romped, and then you go look in a 72. But then look at the open company races. Look at open, faced an 80 in the triple bin and runs third in a 4-horse race. You know, sprinting 7, cuts back to 6, or race 6 last out. But excuse me, those other races race third in an 8-horse field in open company in the grade 2 Pat O'Brien. I mean, I get it. I get your comment, but I don't. I mean, this horse hit the board every time, 13 of 13. You know,
and to me, I can't take 80 in that last race without the Chosen Brawn there in a state bred, in a 4-horse field.
well, I don't know.
And all this horse's wins have been in 4 or 5-horse fields.
But this group's terrible. Like, I don't even know how this is a grade 3. Like,
because they don't grade they grade the races ahead of time before they see the field. That's a pet peeve of mine, for sure.
Well, I mean, these purses can't be that bad. I mean, 100,000. I guess it's $100,000 grade 3. Maybe you find better purses right at wherever, but they're not. I mean, you could go get Mike Maker to claim a horse for you and take it here to Santa Anita and run it in a stakes race. You could win.
Agreed, absolutely. But I just think Anarchist is better than this group. I mean,
hey,
the 4 is going to probably get the battle with the 1 and the 3 on the lead, and the one horse that's shown that it can rate and win a graded stakes race here is the 2. And it's 10-1, 6-1 on the morning line. I just think, if the 2 wasn't here, I think that the 1 has a big shot. But I just think Anarchist is a better horse than Big City Lights, and been facing better.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, nearly beat the Chosen Vron in the grade 1 Bing Crosby in 2023. Was right there.
Yeah.
And the Chosen Vron's just, blown the doors off Big City Lights a bunch of times.
Why they send the 2 to Korea? Like, it's so like, I mean, the connections, for whatever reason, there's some, I'm sure, but I saw that, I was like, wait, what? I don't even remember this, but
I don't remember that either. But all right. And I think and then I think it's Big City Lights, and then probably the 3. But
yeah,
I
to
think
me
it was really those 2 horses.
1, 2, 3. That's my perspective. Bluegrass Dan loved the 3.
Well, I mean, I think you got to take the 3 seriously. I think you
Yeah.
you have to some extent, take the 4 seriously too. But it's a huge step up in class. If the 4 just goes fast and stops, all these other horses are going to be almost in the same position. Let's see where the race sim has all these other horses when the 4 stops.
The 2.
My 2's got the.
Here come the 2 now.
It had the old Julian anchor on it there for a second.
See, Big City Lights smoke them. I think that's what's going to happen. Going to be a short price. We talked about Good Cheer being a short price. I think it's going to be another one.
I think Big City Lights is way more vulnerable than Good Cheer. to that north
Yeah,
side.
I would agree with you there. I mean, I don't think either are vulnerable, but I think this race is a little bit closer versus Good Cheer going to smoke
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah. All right. Where we are headed. Oh, I see you checked this one out. So it's always good to throw in a quarter horse race.
You threw it in there. So
I was looking and I'm like, oh, Sunland Park, because we're going to cover Sunland Park on Sunday with the Derby. I'm like, oh, they have a stakes race on Saturday. And I saw it was quarter horse. So I was like, oh, that's fine. We'll just look at the quarter horse race.
I mean, all these trainers will probably be suspended by the time the race finishes. But
what is going on in the quarter horse world, Oldy? I mean, left and right, the trainers keep getting suspended.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation to bring Chris in for, but it probably had been going on for so long, and that they hadn't been as stringent as the thoroughbred world had been, and now all of a sudden the testing's catching up, and these guys weren't prepared for it, would be my guess. But let's see, Chris, you want to come in and you have a thought on this?
Duh. They've been doing this stuff for a long time, and they finally got caught, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got the top like 3 or 4 quarter horse trainers doping horses, and the regulatory bodies knew about this for a long time. They delayed their awards, they delayed purses and everything else, and and you have to ask yourself, is this prevalent in thoroughbreds with the way they test things and whatnot? But yeah, I mean, you're talking about stuff that was in test trials 10, 12, 15 years ago that wasn't approved, and somebody is manufacturing this stuff. So there are vets involved, trainers, owners. It's just not good.
Yeah.
Just not good. But that's why, like, I don't like bet. And my core horse betting is down to like this, just because of all that. I mean, you got Monte Rosa involved. It's Los Al. You've got the 2 big guys in the New Mexico area and whatnot, and who knows what's going on in Texas, because there's no regulation going on there. So
it's true.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
Oldy, do you want to know what the best part of this race is?
What's the best part of this race?
All right, you gotta look at the 12 horse.
12 horse. I did not look at the A's.
Well,
Samson.
Do any of the offending trainers have horses here? Because they're likely all to get scratched.
I'm not certain. I did not have the name. So this is, and even more funny is Pepsi has their name attached to this too. Because this is the Pepsi Cola Stakes.
They sponsor a lot of quarter horse stuff. When I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen a horse with my last name. Samson Says.
Samson Says. You got to play that if it gets in.
I know, right? I mean, kind of a long shot look with the outside post, but probably going to be tough. But where the picks, the EquinEdge do good on quarter horse. Yeah. But this was a nice little state-bred stakes. But where'd you land, Oldy?
I landed on the 7, just in King. That 1 350-yard race that's in its past performances in that grade 3, 1690 as a time compared to the rest of these horses is blazing. And I think maybe this horse didn't want to go 400 yards and preferred the 350 distance, and that's going to be the difference in it getting home here versus what's been happening recently where it's just missing.
Yeah, man, this is actually a really good stakes race.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you see these and you kind of like, well, this horse can win. I think there's the morning line angle there on the 7. I thought had a big look. mean, I kind of cut this down to the 1, 6, 7, 10, and 13 when I looked at it.
13. No, 13.
Oh, sorry, 12. 1, 6, 7, 12. I didn't mean the 13, but the 12 obviously being kind of a hunch play. But so you talked about 7. So let's look at the 1. I raced, it didn't win a 62 there, but at 350 at Albuquerque, but raced well in a 68. I think has some amount of back class in SOR, but I don't know, when you look at 350, I mean, it hasn't really won at 350. So that was a little bit of the concern. So, and then let's look at the 10, Flash Divine.
Yeah, I almost put the 10 on top.
No, I'm going to put the 10 on top because I just, in a race like this, I mean, an outside post should be good. And I mean, did lose money or did burn money in both those races in 62, but this horse fits here. And, I don't know who this trainer is, but this guy, 38%, small sample, but this horse, I mean, obviously seems to hit with horses. And I just thought a big long shot look at 16%. And you look at, I mean, been racing in state bred at Sunland. I mean, nearly won there, last year in this race. Oldy is the same race. So, and it is a different trainer, but I thought it had a big long shot look.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it does. That horse broke 10th and nearly won this race last year when it was a grade 2.
Yeah. And now it's just state bred stakes.
Yeah.
But similar level, obviously. And I think in some of those other efforts, I mean, you have to watch him. I mean, did run okay 2 back in a 66. So when I saw that, I was like, well, this horse fits at this group. It has run well at 350 as well, which I always like to see. So, but I think your 7 could be tough. That was my second pick, and I put the 1 third. But the 12 is for sure a hunch play. I want to make the 12 can get in the race.
Yeah, no, it needs probably 2 scratches, but if the 11 or 12 get in, I think that could hurt the 10 because the 10 loses the outside post in that case. So
yeah.
All right, so we have 3 races remaining. On the Turfway Saturday night. And where did you end up landing here?
Dude, so when I looked here, a lot of times at Turfway, I try to look at the jockeys, Oldy, just because it just at least give me a starting point, especially in a stakes race like this. So when I looked at this race, I was basically between the 3, 8, 11, and I looked at the 4 a little bit just because it was 13%. And so, but then I'm like, okay, there's some speed up front with the 8 and the 4 and the 9. I thought there would be some pace. So I'm like, okay, I think somebody probably coming off the pace. And I actually like playing Turfway because it's so hard, Oldy, but I haven't been playing it all. So I don't really know how it's been playing. And so I ended up landing on the 11 with Corrales and Maker. I mean, won a 62 and a 66, and then has been facing too tough. It was on the Gulfstream, and then Maker ship over here. I just thought it was at a perfect spot. I know it's not in the picks, but 13%, I think, going to be coming from behind. I do think there's enough pace here. There's a lot, it looks like. So if this pace is really going to be that hot, I think I land on the 11 to come off the pace.
So the 11 was my second pick, and I had the same theory of the race as you did, but I landed on the 3 coming off the pace.
Yeah, I mean, I think we view it like the way it's gonna. And I thought that, like, if I was in a horizontal here, I don't think I could single the 11. I would have to use somebody like the 3 for sure.
Yeah, and I just thought the 3 And then, that this horse, actually did run pretty well on the turf against better than this. In the Morley barn, it did run pretty well against 68s here at Turfway. Um, Coming off the layoff here for Cox, I think that this horse probably has a big shot here. We'll see, but has good enough form to translate back to Turfway again. And that, to me, the other one I was looking at was the 10 Bourbon Day, who I thought just might, a former Cox horse, claimed by Maker, that this is another classic Maker claim.
Well, Machado ride too.
Yeah, and as long as he knows where the finish line is, one at 10, gets a little more distance at 8.5 here, and I thought this horse could be dangerous as well, and might be a little more tactically positioned than the 11 and the 3.
Yeah, no, not a bad look. The 6 horse would definitely be a long shot in the 4, Oldy, both of them. I mean, Moncada ride, the guy is having an amazing meet. Like, he's just, you hear his name all the time, but this is Scotty long shot. I mean, you in a race like this, this horse would not surprise me at all. I mean, but yeah.
Just missed last time out. Had a terrible break. If the horse broke better, probably would have won that race. So I agree. I think maybe the 9 Stitch has a little bit of a look too, if it can run back to some of that turf form, going longer.
All right, we got 2 more on Sunday.
Yep. On Sunday we go to Sunland, and we have the Sunland Oaks and the Sunland Derby left.
I'm going to Sunland this weekend in Eastern Washington, not in New Mexico? Is that where Sunland is? New Mexico?
I believe so.
Should know that.
Right. Yeah, Sunland Park, New Mexico. There we go. And to me, that this looked like a 1-horse race. This race kind of reeks of this Baffert, and I know that this Baffert is very, very highly considered. And he has Tenma at Santa Anita running those races, and I just think Mason's going to win this race by 5-6 lengths.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of, I think that some of the, the 2 and the 3 horse are both nice horses, Oldie, but I'm with you. I landed on the 4 as well.
And, if we want to watch the race some real fast, we can, but I don't think we need to spend that much time on this race other than it's a points race. The 4 did show it can rate. It did not, and it should be right there.
Wins like not super easy, but fairly easy.
Yeah, fairly easy.
All right, we go into the last at the Great Sunland Park.
Yes, at the Great Sunland Park. This race actually has the renewal of the getaway car Mackenzie Street rivalry, which has been going on at Santa Anita for a little while. It was supposed to be in the Breeders' Cup. Mackenzie Street scratched out the day before of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as well, so that that was one of the things that caught my attention, that both these horses were here. There's some other pretty decent horses here. This is not a typical. This field's better, I would say, and deeper than than the Bob Lewis was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of horses really, trying to pick up points. But I'm assuming there's not a lot of points in this. I think we're still, how many points are in? Oh, actually, does this award, how many points is this award? Does anybody in chat know?
I think it's 20.
I'm looking real quick. Yeah, 20 to the winner. 20, 10, 6, 4, 2. But I think to your point, Oldy, cheer for the 10 art. Okay. So where'd you land? Did you land on Getaway?
I landed on Getaway Car here, but I really think that there are other horses with a chance here, but Getaway Car has some Derby points already from the juvenile. And the 20 points here probably would get this horse in. And they considered sending this horse to Saudi for the Saudi Cup undercard for that points race, which is a 50-pointer. And they decided to keep the horse here. This is also the horse that I described as breaking to the lead in the juvenile and then letting Citizen Bull in to have it. It is by Curlin. The distance shouldn't be a problem. I just think it's Getaway Car. It could be Mackenzie Street as well, but I do think there's some other options here. But I landed on Getaway Car because I just think Baffert wasn't going to ship this horse down here if it wasn't extremely live. And I actually, one of the other things I had here was I actually thought Take Charge Tom had a look underneath for Diodoro here.
I mean, won 3 in a row.
And should not have a problem with the distance. Is going to have the Diodoro juice here. So that was actually the horse I picked second. And I left Mackenzie Street off of my ticket here on the trainer change to Johnny Evans from Yak Team.
Well, that's probably Justin Evans. Yep,
Justin
sure
Evans,
is.
sorry.
No, yeah, you're fine. That guy, he raced horses up here in Emerald. I didn't like this race, but so I put the long shot on top. I'm gonna roll with Florent Giroux in the Sunland Park Derby. I feel like it's fitting. Florent got to come all the way over here, and I'm like, what? Why? You're riding for Todd Fincher, and Fincher gets these horses like occasionally, some fairly nice horses. So, when I looked at the GSR, I'm like, the GSR is actually pretty good. Nothing like Getaway Car. The morning line at this horse obviously was much, much lower. It shouldn't be 12 to 1, which is probably true. And then it showed up as 30% to win, Oldie. So I had a lot of intrigue there just by seeing all of the algorithms. So I looked and I was like, okay, can this horse actually, is it going to get the lead? Well, is it going to get the lead? There's all these other horses that are kind of fast, right? I mean,
yeah.
And then I looked and I'm like, okay, well, Florent never rode and he's in here to ride. I'm not sure. He must be here. I'm not sure who else he's riding, but he must be here to ride Smash It. And I look and I was like, oh, I have a note on this horse. And I had a note from breaking its maiden, Oldy, and I don't take a lot of notes. I just said, ran well, watch out going forward. So and then I looked, and I mean, this horse obviously had talent. They didn't really know what to do because they put this horse on the turf, and I think that was a bad idea. The GSR was so low, but it still ran a great race in the Speakeasy, Oldie. It was only a four horse field, so I thought this horse had a lot of talent. I don't love that it didn't win that last race at 8 furlongs, but it was on the lead. I'm assuming that they're going to try to sit off the pace. I don't think they're going to go to the lead. I mean, they might, but I think they're going to try to get a similar trip. Was bumped at the break at Zia Park. I mean, the stretch outs probably the biggest concern, but in a race like this where I didn't really love Getaway Car, I didn't love some of these. That's where I landed.
All right. The one other horse that I had some interest in was the 9 Caldera for D. Wayne Lucas. Another horse that may look like it needs to lead, but I think it might be able to rate a little bit. Big GSR by Liam's Map. Where Harano comes in here. It's a My Race horse, so it's going to get backed as well.
That horse going to take a bunch of money.
Yeah.
See, that's yeah.
But that might be a good thing because you may get your 12-1 on Smash It with a My Race horse here.
No, I think the 3 horse probably go off at 6-8-1 at least.
And I'll also say I did not like the 8, the second pick at all here.
I mean, didn't run great last out. I mean, was on the synthetic, right? But I mean, this horse is obviously had talent, Oldy, but I'm with you. I didn't really like the 8 either.
All right.
Well, it's been a pleasure, brother. Let's see if we can keep up the hot week again.
Sounds good, my friend. Thank you. Hopefully it'll stop snowing there pretty soon and and the power stays on for you.
I know it's supposed to be windy. Thanks everybody in the chat for being here. We got stretch run on Saturday, right? And then Scotty's doing NHC show tomorrow with David.
Yep.
Yeah.
11:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Scotty, David Harrison, Road to the NHC. We're popping on at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday to cover all those late stakes races at Fairgrounds, Gulfstream, Santa Anita. It should be a good time. We'll be on till about 7:30. So good stuff. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we will see you on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good Friday.